We're back with Michael Cohen. Michael, I want to ask you about the defense's case, if we call it that. When they put Costello on the stand, it seemed insane because it felt like the part of your direct testimony that implicated Trump the most was the part about Costello. And then they put him up, which allowed the state to go back on cross and ask him, like the last thing the jury heard was about how Trump's sort of mobbed up cutout was trying to pull you into the fold through Rudy. What did you, just as a lawyer, what did you think of that?
So my road with Costello has been one that is fraught with all sorts of crazy controversy and back and forth attacks on one another. Bob Costello is a dirtbag. Say nothing less than that. The fact is, what I realized early on is that he was playing me through Rudy. And I realized early on that what he was looking to do is to use me in order to gain or garner more connection with Rudy, his friend, and Rudy with Donald. And anything that I would say to him would immediately go back to Donald. And therefore, if the fear is that I would cooperate, they would know in advance. It was sending a mole into your house. And I realized it early on. So I always kept him at a distance, but I kept him close enough in order to see what was going on, because I didn't want to be out of the fold. I wanted to know what was going on for my own self. Then I realized he was pushing for himself, for Donald, at my expense. And I was like, this has to stop. Why they put him on is because Donald is a myopic thinker. And again, when you have somebody like Donald running his own strategy of defense, it is a flawed defense. They saw Bob Costello in Congress, and Donald liked the way that he acted, the way he attacked me, the way he made stuff up. And by the way, you want to talk about a perjury charge? The entire thing, unless he wasn't under oath, that I don't know. But Donald liked the way that he attacked me. And he's like, we got to get this guy on. I could just see Donald saying, we got to get him on.
And Fox celebrated him. Laura Ingraham said the same.
Exactly. Right. Laura Toomer, the whole this guy, Trustee, and then you had the guy, the lawyer from GW University's law school, Turdley. This is the issue. So Donald's like, oh my God, this guy is the one who could help us to smash Cohen to Smithy. You see, the flawed defense is the destroy Michael Cohen defense.
Right.
That's the mistake that they were making. He believed that by destroying me, that would exonerate him from his crimes. And the answer is that's a flawed defense. You don't win your case by trying to damage a non-party subpoenaed witness. You do it based upon your own evidence, right, of your innocence. Right. Well, that wasn't what that's not what Donald's about. He doesn't have it. So the nice thing is the 19 other witnesses that came up, they pre-corroborated everything that I've been saying for 6 years.
I want to ask you what happens to Donald Trump now. We learned today that ahead of sentencing, he'll have to meet with some sort of official of the court. He'll have to go through things. Yeah,
it's a probation. They're going to do what's called the pre-sentencing report. He's going to meet with someone. They're going to ask him 1,000,001 questions. The part that he's going to have personally a problem with, and that's, again, if they treat him the way they treat everyone, myself included. I went through it not once but twice with the unconstitutional remand. But what they do is they sit you down and they take a full history on you. They force you to urinate in a cup, which you're doing in front of your probation officer. It's in a room that's all mirrored. I'm sure he's going to be very unhappy with that.
Wow.
And, there's a lot of things that, you have to share, including all of your finances. He's going to have to put, his is significantly more complicated than the average. It's not the only one of its kind. There have been many people with significant money that have gone through the system, and they'll obviously put somebody on who's capable of understanding, but all of his freedoms now become limited. If he wants to travel, he's going to have to get a travel authorization request form. And he's going to have to fill it out just like everybody else and wait for the approval process. Now, I'm sure they're going to grant it, just as mine was continuously granted. And there's no reason that they shouldn't, but he has to surrender his passport, which I believe he's already done that. His firearms, his firearm license, he loses that. There's a lot of your liberties. Now, the question becomes whether or not he's going to be treated again like in the banking world. Is he going to lose, as I did, your banking relationships?
Right.
I don't know. He's friendly with Jamie Dimon of Chase. Will Jamie Dimon go to bat for him and risk the reputation of Chase or any of the others? Like, allegedly, he's got millions at like a Morgan Stanley account or something. Will he lose it like every other person?
Right.
Or are they going to give him some sort of special, dispensation?
Right. What do you think he does with this experience in terms of the rage and vitriol he directs toward his perceived political enemies?
Now, he's already made that crystal clear. He wants to be what he claims is the country's retribution. He wants to be their force. He's not talking about for anybody else other than himself. And one of the things that he said, like, for example, he wants to go after the president of MSNBC. He wants to use SEAL Team 6. You see, again, it sounds so hyperbolic. It sounds so like Handmaid's Tale. It's like dystopian.
His supporters don't believe him,
Right.
but I think we've seen him over 8 years.
If you're not going to believe what he's saying, how could you believe anything anybody else is going to say? These aren't Michael Cohen's words. These aren't Nicole Wallace's words. These are Donald Trump's words telling you. On day number one, he wants to rewrite the Constitution. He wants to confer all power to himself. He wants to use SEAL Team 6 to go after his enemies. He wants to throw everybody in Guantanamo Bay. Go throw them in Gitmo, and with the hands, with the accordion hands, right? Throw them all in Gitmo. No, you can't throw American citizens in Gitmo. It's not permitted. But it is under a Donald Trump regime.
How does he look to you? Does he look the same as he did in 2016?
No, he looks deflated. Now, I don't know if that's the Ozempic or if that's just the stress that's getting to him. But whatever it is, he does not look healthy. He looks as he should right now. He's concerned. The anxiety has got to be getting to him. I remember when, right after I pled and I had 60 days within which to report to Otisville, and I remember as you get closer to that 60-day, the anxiety really builds up because you realize, hey, this is coming. And he knows July 11th, he knows he's in trouble. He knows that you don't get 34 guilty counts against you and then you end up getting a slap on the wrist and you're only allowed one Mar-a-Lago burger, not two, and no ice cream for a month. That's not how it works.
Yeah. When you were in solitary, did you...
Which time?
The first time, the 51 days.
No, first it was 35, then it was another 16.